So this is Baruch Fleischman here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and we're continuing to work on Likutei Maharan number 4 with this piece from Rabbi Babachona, which is really very mysterious, appearing in Masechtas in the Talmud in regards to Masechtas Baba Basra. So it appears over there. So this story that he's been talking about, the fish that died and had a worm in its nose and so on and so forth, it fed so many people, it destroyed, but it also fed. So exactly how did this happen? Rabbi Nachman touched it on as I'm trying to think of it over time, because these metaphors take a while for me, personally, to let them sink in. So he says, it destroyed 60 cities. So then 60 cities came along and salted its flesh. So it keeps using the number 60. What's 60 all about? So then, let's read like this. So 60 cities salted its flesh. This alludes to the rectification of the two vices that stem from the mineral and the vegetable life form. So here's how we do that. So here Rabbi Nachman is saying for these different patterns that are a result of of our different aspects of our physicality, they tend to pull us more and more into physicality. And again, in that circle that I was talking about, it just keeps going around and around. It is not able to breach beyond that circle. This is accomplished by means of drawing close to the tzaddikim. There are people who are really, really nice, really good people. Not by nature, but not only by nature, but they have the ability to be able to see and present a world which is higher, which allows us and able to bring it to us. That's the main thing. So he says, draw close to the tzaddik, because the tzaddik is a covenant of salt forever. Now, exactly where that quote comes from, he's got it down here. We'll read a little bit. Both melancholy and evil passions, right? Depression, tivus niyuf, what they call it, the desire for someone else's wife, come from putrid blood which has been, putrid. Whereas salt expels the bad blood. So in kashrus, we salt the meat before we eat it. Has to be prepared by the butcher or whatever, and salted. Draws the blood out of the meat. So we have to understand that in 60 cities it alludes to the 60 letters of the Birkat Kohanim, which are the hands of the tzaddik. As is written, blessings are upon the head of the tzaddik. Now, as I'm thinking, I'm trying to work my way through this Likutei Maharan, there is just so much metaphoric in this that can be applied to our lives. But I have to sift it. So let's go over here. So he said 60 cities. I think I skipped something, but I'm going to, if I did, I did, and that's it. So he said number 173. Whereas salt expels the bad blood. So it writes, salt expels the bad blood. This is evident from the process for koshering meat. That's what I said. Salt is liberally spread over it in order to remove the blood. In our concepts, therefore, salt, the tzaddik, removes the bad blood, which is depression. The tzaddik is like salt. So you could think different kinds of things about this. So now let's go on to Numbers 174. On Numbers 70, and 60 cities alludes to the 60 letters of the Birkat Kohanim, which are in the hands of the tzaddik, as is written. What a metaphor. He says that the Birkat Kohanim, which is a bracha of chesed, of kindness, where we seek Rahmanas from Hashem and kindness. This is all in the hands of the tzaddik. It is written, blessings are upon the head of the tzaddik. So how exactly does this work on number 174 down here? And let's see if we can understand it. He says, 60 cities, it destroyed 60 cities, salted its flesh. What's the idea of salting? So we went through that a little bit. It pulls out the blood. The blood represents the corruption. Finally, the 60 cities hint to the 60 letters of Birkat Kohanim. So if you count up the letters, there's 60 of them. The Birkas Kohanim is the priestly blessing found in Numbers 6:24-26. In the preceding paragraphs, it's explained how giving charity to the tzaddik eliminates those vices that lead to poverty. Now, how is that? However, the person who escapes poverty is still in danger of falling into the next set of vices, which are what? So you realize that you did wrong. So what that leaves you to? Melancholy, evil passions, which can include anger. As the sages teach, the more possessions, the more worry. When a person has 100, he desires 200. It's therefore necessary to have the salt. The salt is the tzaddik, who is able to, by his teachings and by the practices that he recommends, allows the blood, which is putrid, to be taken out of our physicality. That remedies the worry and passionate desire for money that wealth often brings. Many times you see somebody who's really wealthy and they're extremely cool. The passion is very hard to find in them. This then is the final 60 cities. It corresponds to the blessing received through the 60 letters of Birkot Kohanim, the blessing of kindness. It's God's blessing that enriches, and it contains no sorrow. Now listen to that. God's blessing that enriches, that is, we're able to receive these 60 letters, be open to them. It has nothing but purity in it, no sorrow. Any trace of melancholy, depression, or evil passion that might accompany a material abundance is abolished by the Birkat Kohanim, the blessing received from the tzaddik, which is pure. So he writes like this. So far, Rabbi Bar Chana's story translation in our text as follows. So this should help us to be able to understand what's playing here. One time we were traveling on a sfina. Rabbi Bar Chana went to see how to elevate Malchus. That's what it is. He says, how, in fact, do we bring light into a pattern of life which keeps going around and around and around in circles? You wake up, you do your thing, you go back to sleep at the end of the night, and in between there are passions and different things that you have to deal with and problems, because the world is full of problems. How do we break out of that? So he said, we saw this kaver in whose nostrils was sitting a mud eater. He saw a Jew whose prayers were disrupted by an impurity. So understand that. That's just like we see in other places, that every time we have a thought which is impure, it makes an impression. So when we come to pray and to actually approach God, we have to bring that along with us. So I'm trying a technique for myself and trying to elevate it, but it's still a tremendous problem for me, trying to elevate it and bring that as a part of my prayer. But at any rate, we go on. What did the Jew do to rectify this? He went to see the tzaddik, because that's what it is, the mind of the tzaddik, the blessing of the tzaddik, and performed these 3 steps. What were they? The kaver died, so he says that means he confessed. And the water tossed it about, and he gave charity, and cast it ashore. And he saw and got close to the tzaddik. He went to beyond his realm, which is, let's say, like here we say the sea, the physical sea, and went on to the dry land, which is a place that is not the sea. That's the place of the tzaddik. Now it said they destroyed 60 cities. His confession rectified Malchus, and the tzaddik guided him to his proper path. So, in other words, the Malchus of the other side, it was destroyed, or is humbled, and the Malchus of the real Malchus, the Malchus Kedusha, was guided. The tzaddik guides him to that proper path. Let's see if there's a little bit more. So then he says, 60 cities then ate from it. He says, what does it mean? As a result of his giving charity, he was blessed with abundance. This rid him of the vices of idle chatter and pride which engender poverty. "60 cities salted its flesh, and through seeing the tzaddik and receiving the tzaddik's blessing, He was rid of the vices of melancholy and even evil passions. Once again, following in the line of the tzaddik. This is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Kola.